Story 1. The short-term rental industry, also known as Airbnb, has severely impacted residential communities worldwide and is partly responsible for the rapidly increasing housing costs. Story 2. The gig economy passes all the risk and liability to a sector of the workforce that cannot afford it. Story 3. Influencers. Most sales roles are ineffective, particularly in technology. Real estate agents and similar roles often aim to take the best opportunities without adding significant value or knowledge. They act as gatekeepers and provide little meaningful contribution. Story 4. The funeral industry. People are already grieving, some losing their provider. They do not need more problems. Story 5. The entire industry of family YouTube channels and Instagram accounts that relies on the exploitation and monetization of children should be eliminated. Story 6. Porn industry. After reviewing recent accusations against James Dean and Rocco Siffredi and watching some documentaries, I understand that there is exploitation involved. Many people have experienced assault during production. Story 7. Okay, I'm gonna give you one we all hate. Fast furniture. You know those Formica cube organizers from Walmart and Target that crack and sway after 2 weeks? Or pretty much any furniture from IKEA that isn't an $800 couch. Here's the kicker. They all assemble with black hex screws and that same stupid Allen wrench. Story 8. The diet industry profits by making people feel bad about themselves. It focuses on quick fixes, magic pills, and warnings like, don't eat that or you'll ruin your life. I support taking care of yourself in a kind and sustainable way, not the guilt trip and body-shaming approach they promote. Story 9. Beauty care. There is no evidence, but I am convinced that an industry that thrives the more young women feel unattractive must have some deceptive practices. Why does moisturizer need to contain alcohol when it is an astringent that dries the skin? Also, there is too much plastic used for all the small containers. I do not like it. Story 10. Gift wrap. I really feel like it is a crazy waste. There are many others, but that is probably the most unusual. Story 11. Organized religion. I do not care about religion in and of itself. Just keep it to yourself, do not force others into it, and do not judge me because I do not agree with you. In the United States of America, at least, the Christian nationalist movement is gaining so much power and traction. I cannot tell if it is because of real faith or just capitalism and authoritarianism with a Christian facade. Story 12. Jewelry is much more expensive than necessary, especially items like diamonds. They are not rare and can be created artificially. Prices are intentionally inflated. Story 13. Fur industry. Poor animals. I don't mind eating meat, but raising animals just to make a coat seems cruel. Story 14. Advertising has become so pervasive and impersonal that I actively avoid products I see advertisements for. When I cannot select an option I have not seen advertised, I will choose the one I have seen the least advertising for. Story 15. The beauty industry. I do not shave, wear makeup, paint my nails, or similar. I do not believe in giving money to corporations that build their billions by telling women that there is something wrong with their natural bodies and that they need to buy a product to fix it. I also do not buy from any fast fashion brands such as Temu or Shine. Story 16. The sugar industry causes legal harm to people and increases healthcare costs for those who are still alive. Story 17. Basically, this applies to all online distributors, including music, books, and video entertainment. For example, suppose I write a book and place it on Amazon Kindle. I followed all the rules. My book starts to sell well. Then, suddenly, without any notice, Amazon suspends my account and keeps all the earnings from the book. This actually happens frequently. Amazon often makes excuses not to pay you, such as claiming there is inappropriate content in your book. These are just excuses to avoid payment. The same applies to music distributors. Platforms like Spotify, DistroKid, and other online music distributors often make excuses not to pay you. Story 18. After password sharing crackdowns and an influx of advertisements, I have stopped supporting streaming services completely and now pirate all content. Story 19. Honestly, the culinary industry is in poor condition right now. I am a culinary student, And the pay is terrible, as are the hours and working conditions. More people need to rise up and speak out about this. Story 20. The influencer category includes individuals making money from everyone, especially children, by selling low-quality products. Story 21. Dog breeders. We are exclusively a rescue dog household and always will be. Perfectly great dogs, desperate for a good home, are in shelters all over the country. I really struggle to respect people who need a purebred and pay thousands of dollars when there are animals in need in their local shelters. Story 22. Landlording. At least if you own the lot, it's fine. But buying new properties before anyone had a chance to do so and renting them out, that's cheap. One time I went house hunting. There was a new apartment that got quite a bit of attention and suddenly sold out within minutes after the launch ceremony. When it was finished being constructed, about 80% of the units were opened for rent at up to twice the price of the monthly loan payment if we had bought them on that first day. Story 23. I no longer support any of the animal industries. I watched Earthlings, the documentary. I learned what actually happens on those farms. That moment when I realized all the animals felt pain and never got any relief was not a fun learning experience. I also noticed the workers were very depressed. I learned that 25% of workers in the slaughterhouses develop post-traumatic stress disorder from the job alone. I thought only war caused that, but it does not. There are many injuries as well. People get kicked by cows, pigs, and goats, get trampled, bitten, or lose hands. There are endless injuries that happen to the humans. I stopped eating animals because of the suffering of the animals and because it is a horrific slave job for the people doing it, too. I have never worked those jobs, I could never do it, and I cannot support others being forced to do them for me either. Story 24. Oh, how I could go on and on. Here are mine, though. The tobacco industry. How people do this, even with all the warnings, astounds me. Pornography, pet breeders, multi-level marketing companies, dropshippers. Story 25. Pornography involves exploiting women in the name of easy money, but then destroying their lives forever by posting it online. It also causes a lot of antisocial behavior among its users. Story 26. Addiction refers to selling nicotine to teenagers, providing engineered fake food to children, and profiting from any other form of addiction. Social media is another example. Story 27. Real estate. I believe that if any job can be replaced on a large scale, especially using artificial intelligence, it would be real estate agents. I have bought 4 houses in my lifetime, and the agents were more of a nuisance than an asset. They were all recommended with excellent reviews. Worthless. Story 28. The credit industry, specifically credit scoring, is overcomplicated and often unintuitive. It exists to compel people to overextend their finances and maintain unnecessary and often unrealistic volumes of accounts. It rewards wealthy individuals and punishes those with lower income. Story 29. Kids' sports teams collecting money at traffic lights. I know it's less of an industry, but it pisses me off. I've even seen the boys' club doing it. I never see the coaches walking between the cars with a little bucket to ask for money. Just the kids. Pisses me off that a child's safety is being endangered for their fundraising. If they had a car wash, I would pay them double. But I refuse to support sacrificing a child's safety and teaching them it's better to beg than to put in constructive effort. Story 30. There are many industries I do not support. Greyhound racing, horse racing, puppy and kitten farming, fast fashion, whaling, and gambling. The list goes on. Story 31. Mainstream coffee industry. Most companies make a significant portion of their profit by underpaying coffee bean farmers, not providing them with a living wage. This practice has been going on for decades. Story 32. This is a little bit strange, but clothing that displays their brand loudly and proudly. I am not a walking billboard. If you want me to promote your brand, you should pay me for it. Story 33. Wind energy. Technically, I pay taxes and buy electricity, so I support it, but I am not a fan. Story 34. The non-governmental organization industry, or non-governmental organizations, spends less than 10 cents of every dollar on the actual problems they claim to address. Most of the money goes toward high salaries and perks for the executives. They do not genuinely want to resolve these issues because solving them would jeopardize their funding. As a result, they may inadvertently make the problems worse. Story 35. Infant adoption is often a for-profit industry, especially in the United States. I do not support the mentality where people are willing to pay tens of thousands of dollars to buy a baby. There are many unethical practices in adoption, sometimes even human trafficking. Adoption should be about finding homes for children who need them, not about finding a baby for someone who wants one. Story 36. Most social media, tobacco, gambling, prostitution, pornography, arms sales to questionable countries, patent farming, most advertising and influencing, and most lobbying. Story 37. A fake press from any country that triggers people and uses false information. It is the most toxic thing we have at the moment, causing significant damage to society. Story 38. Private, for-profit insurance. The entire business model is to charge the highest premiums the market will bear, deny claims, and give the money to shareholders. Additional credit if they influence the government to require you to purchase it initially. Story 39. Pokemon card scalpers. Every video I see of grown men raiding the Walmart or other stores on release day is so sad. Story 40. The entire wedding industry is a scam, from the caterers who immediately increase prices once they hear the wedding word, to the $5,000 dress the bride will wear exactly once in her life, and all the other kitschy traditions that event planners make sure to charge as much as possible for. Guests also have to pay for travel, clothes, and gifts on top of all that. After spending all that money on a single day, there is roughly a 50-50 chance of it ending in divorce anyway. Just get married at the courthouse for God's sake. My cousin had the right idea. She and her husband went skiing, had a judge marry them on the mountain, and then held a dinner party nearby with friends to celebrate. I'm not saying don't get married or have a wedding, but a simple ceremony with a judge and a party afterward with friends and family is an option that too many people ignore. Story 41. Child sexual exploitation industry. I do not know, it gives off a suspicious vibe as if they are always involved in wrongdoing. There is unethical activity, and for that reason, I cannot support it. Story 42. Pharmaceutical companies. To be clear, I believe in medicine and science, but I do not trust medicine made by some of the biggest perpetrators of fraud in human history. And the Food and Drug Administration. Food and drugs? It seems they might manipulate one to make you need the other in order to create a trillion-dollar industry profiting from the unwell. They collaborate against the people to make a profit. Story 43. Weed killers for lawns. A large part of the lawn care industry applies chemicals, herbicides, and pesticides primarily for cosmetic purposes. Story 44. Most toys nowadays are part of a mystery loot crate type of experience. This is not just nostalgia from an older generation. It is essentially gambling for children, which is very concerning. Story 45. Whatever Pop Mart is, gone are the days when I could just buy a toy I wanted without gambling for it. Also, the buy now, pay later system is just predatory. Story 46. Payday loans. Food service. Rideshare and food delivery. Adult entertainment. Men's interest content. There are others, but I am not thinking of them right now. Story 47. Telecommunications companies receive special treatment as utilities when they seek easement access and public funds. However, they operate as private companies and increase rates without competition. In my area, there is only one internet service provider, so no one competes with them, allowing them to act without restraint. A nearby town has a cooperative provider that offers much faster speeds and better prices. Story 48. Casino companies. I don't mind a friendly card game, but they are just preying on the vulnerable. Sports betting is a subcategory. I had to pay a betting company to watch baseball this year, and it actively takes away from enjoying the game. Story 49. A few come to mind right away. Privatized healthcare, private prisons, commercialized organized religion, ticket businesses such as Ticketmaster, big game and exotic hunting, the predatory payday loan industry, and private debt collection. Story 50. Scam call centers. Kolkata. Uttar Pradesh, Southeast Asia, Cambodia, Sihanoukville, Poipet, and Bavay are known hotspots. Laos. The Golden Triangle Special Economic Zone is a hub. Myanmar, Laokai, Mayawati, KK Park, Shikoku, and Monla are cited locations. Other locations, India, Kolkata, particularly the Garden Reach area, has been identified as a location for call centers involved in scams. Other regions, Africa. Scam operations connected to Southeast Asia have been observed in several African countries, with West Africa potentially becoming a new regional hub. Note: the global scam industry is dynamic, and criminal networks can easily relocate their operations. Therefore, this list may not be exhaustive, and new locations may emerge as these organizations adapt their tactics. West Africa includes countries like Nigeria, Tanzania, and Ghana. Nigeria is known for digital scams and is considered a hub for global scamming activities. South America includes countries like Brazil, Peru, Argentina, Chile, and Venezuela. Brazil receives a high number of spam calls, many of which are fraud-related. Middle East. The United Arab Emirates has seen instances of scam call centers. Central America. Mexico has been mentioned in relation to scam centers. Europe. Locations associated with scam calls have been identified in Albania, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Kosovo, and Lebanon. Spain has a high rate of unwanted calls, with a significant percentage being fraud. Story 51. As a Christian, I am all for having a large congregation. Jesus literally preached to 5,000 people. However, if your pastor preaches about humility and giving to those in need while also driving away in a Bugatti, there might be an issue. Story 52. I choose not to support the alcohol and betting industries because they often profit from addiction and personal struggle. While they may be legal, I believe in aligning my work with values that promote well-being, empowerment, and long-term impact. For me, that means focusing on industries that help people grow, not escape. Story 53. Any and all child-related media, including child acting, family vlogging, and child beauty pageants, if they are under 18 years old, do not include. Story 54. Disney. After the debacle in which they refused to pay authors their royalties, forced any author who noticed to sign a non-disclosure agreement before negotiating for the money they were owed, and made a court claim that, if taken seriously, would require a complete reinterpretation of the entire field of contract law, I do not give them any money. Period. Story 55. Science publishers. Their prices are ridiculous, and the service they provide is minimal. They are legal highwaymen. Additionally, all the essential work involved in their product is done by people who do not receive monetary compensation. I have never illegally downloaded music, movies, or books, but with scientific papers, I felt like Robin Hood when I was at university. Story 56. Division in the industry. Fox News, Cable News Network, Microsoft National Broadcasting Company, and others are all making money by dividing the country. Story 57. Cigarettes. I do not smoke. My grandmother was a heavy smoker and could not quit. She asked us children to promise that we would not smoke because it is unhealthy and addictive. I have never smoked a cigarette out of respect for her request. I tried a cigar once on a dare and promptly became sick to my stomach. Story 58. The sex work industry. I do not care if somebody just wants to sell their feet pictures or whatever on OnlyFans, but the actual wider mainstream industry is so ridiculously exploitative and abusive that I would support its abolition. Story 59. Homeopathic remedies. The organic food industry acts as if they do not spray deadly pesticides, just like everyone else, while charging higher prices. Story 60. The fast fashion industry is harmful to the planet, relies on slave labor, and is financially unsustainable in the long term. It is unfortunate that ethical clothing is unaffordable for most people. Story 61. Chiropractors. I just read about a 24-year-old who went to one, and they injured his neck. He now has locked-in syndrome, meaning he cannot move or speak. He has asked for death through blinking. My teacher from beauty school had a minor stroke from one, and part of her face became paralyzed. Thankfully, you cannot tell at all. That is not worth the risk to me. Story 62. Fast fashion involves cheap labor, massive waste, and environmental damage. Also, we can buy $5 shirts that fall apart in a month. It is not worth it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.